just a mess. Hey, it's Jay. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be recommending a couple of YA novels that include some aspect of therapy. I haven't read a lot of books, like in general, that have therapy in it, like that have the characters or the narrator go to therapy, and like I know that sometimes it's not the best representation, but these three that I have are YA. Well, one of them is technically new adult, but it's in the YA category, and the therapy that the characters go through is, at least in my opinion, pretty good. So let's get into it. The first one is Let's Talk About Love by Claire Kahn. This is the new adult masquerading as a YA book. But this is about a girl named Alice who is black, biromantic, and asexual, who has just gotten broken up with her girlfriend, who has just got broken up with by her girlfriend, and she's kind of struggling with her asexuality and that navigating that aspect of herself in romantic relationships. But in here, Alice does go to therapy, kind of just like in general, and I think for anxiety, if I remember. And if there's no kind of conversion therapy, her therapist does talk about her asexuality, but it's an accepted thing. It's not the therapist trying to convince her that it's not real or nothing like that. There are a couple passages I have tabbed, and I'm going to read them quickly. So the context for this quote is, it's still like kind of toward the beginning of the book, like first 80 pages, and Alice is talking about the breakup that she has went through, and she's saying that she, if she were to tell her parents she's lesbian, bisexual, whatever, they would know what she meant, but if she told them like she's asexual, then they would think that she's broken. And how like she doesn't, it's not fair that she should want to have sex in order to have a relationship. The quote is from the therapist: "I'm afraid I don't have the kind of answer you're looking for. This isn't something where I can tell you to go read a book and it will methodically list the steps of how to come out. It's a personal and individualized experience. My advice to you is to be prepared to educate. It may feel unfair that the onus of this responsibility will fall on you, but when most people think the A stands for ally, you have to speak louder with bravery and dignity to be heard." And what I really like about the therapy representation in Let's Talk About Love is that the therapist is clearly like educated and definitely like listens to her, and like I know that's like part of the job description for being a therapist, but I've had therapists that don't listen and literally like will spend half the session talking about themselves. There are a few scenes in the book where she's talking to her therapist. It's definitely not the main focus. It's more of like a side plot, I guess is what it can be called. But I think she does bring up her therapy appointments to her friends at least once, and so like it's an open conversation with her loved ones, and I think that's really important because sometimes it can be really hard to have that. A Tragic Kind of Wonderful by Eric Lindstrom was one of the first books that I read that has a bipolar character, and for those of you that don't know, I do have bipolar 2 disorder. I plan to talk about that in a future video at some point, but this was the second one I read that had a bipolar character. This is about a girl who her brother just passed away like a year ago, and she's still reeling from that, and then she was recently diagnosed with bipolar disorder. I forget which variant it is, and she has kind of distanced herself from friends, and she's struggling with that, and it's just a fun time going between depression and mania. There is a therapy kind of aspect to this as well, obviously, and what stood out to me about this was, okay, I can't remember if her brother was also bipolar or not. The way that she analyzes her mood was described, like on page like within the first couple dozen pages. She had this therapist who's also a friend named Dr. Jordan, and she says, he taught me that bipolar disorder doesn't just mean bouncing between manic and depressed, that my rapid cycling isn't just doing it faster than most, that my mixed states aren't just being depressed and manic at the same time. He showed me it's all much more complicated than that, but also how to break it down. And she has like graphs that she makes where she talks about like what was happening this day, how she felt this day, variables that she thinks are important. And at the beginning of every other kind of chapter, there's there's the chapter title, and then there's like a subtitle where it says hamster is blank, hummingbird is blank, hammerhead is blank, handing animal is blank. So like for example, for the first chapter it says hamster is active, hummingbird is hovering, hammerhead is cruising, handing animal is up. And when she explains this, she says that the hamster is her head, so for how clear her thinking is. When her hamster is running or sprinting and its wheel, she's sharp or racing. If it's stumbling, then she can think fast, but she can't put two thoughts together, like they're super muddled and stuff. Or she can't stop thinking about something over and over and over again. The hummingbird is her heart, for how much energy she has. So if it's flying, she wants to run around, or if it's speeding, she can stay up for days without sleeping, so manic. But if it's perched or asleep, she just wants to lie down. Hammerhead is her physical health. Like if she's cruising, she's fine. If she's slogging or thrashing, she's sick. And the Hannigan animal, like it has to do with her name. It's like a play on words with animal and her name. And like the Hannigan animal was just kind of like a combination of how all she was feeling. So like if her hamster is running, her hummingbird is flying, and like her hammerhead is cruising and stuff, then she would be up and manic and stuff. At first, when I first read that, it was kind of confusing, but then I kind of reread it a couple times. I was like, oh, that's actually a really interesting way of keeping track of your mood. There are a few other scenes throughout the book where she has a therapy appointment. There's like the formal therapy appointment with her current therapist, and then there's the informal therapy appointments with this older gentleman who used to be her therapist, because she volunteers or works at this old folks home, and he lives there. Both influences are very important, in my opinion, on the representation for the therapy in here. But I think this was a good book for bipolar representation, and again, the therapy. It wasn't more of like psychologist, it was more like psychiatrist. Like psychologist is like talking therapy, psychiatrist is like medicine and stuff. So this is more psychiatrist. The last book I have for YA novels that have some kind of therapy aspect is A Quiet Kind of Thunder by Sarah Bernard. I just recently reread this and I've got tabs and stuff. This is about a girl who is selectively mute, and she is introduced to this boy who is deaf because they both know BSL, or British Sign Language. And they kind of form this friendship, and then they start to form a relationship, and it's really cute. But for a while, there were when she was younger, she had therapy because they were trying to figure out, the therapist and her parents were trying to figure out why she wouldn't talk, and like with her anxiety and stuff. Social anxiety, and they like actually talk about plans in here that they have, like her, I guess, homework that she has to do in order to kind of come out of her shell and get comfortable speaking to other people. And then there are a couple scenes in here where she's like her current age, 16 or so, where she goes back to the therapist and she talks about like improvements she's made. Like one time she talked in class, and one time she went to hang out with her boyfriend's friends, which was stressful, but it was still an important milestone for her. And I just think that even though in my opinion the therapist was a bit too like cheery and stuff at times, it was still good because there wasn't really anything traumatic that happened to the character. It was more of just like, but rather like the therapy aspect is more to work on herself as a person, and like the social aspect that she is currently lacking. So they try and improve on her being able to talk, even just like a little bit, so that she can convince her parents that she is perfectly capable of going to college by herself after she graduates, which is a really big goal of hers. I haven't really read a lot of books that have any kind of like good therapy aspects. So if you have any like recommendations, can you tell me down in the comments? They don't have to be they don't have to be YA, but I do prefer them to be YA. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to hit subscribe and ring the bell so you get notified whenever I upload. I upload relatively frequently, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.